Hello and welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Match Show Live. And we're here live from Sunnyside, Queens with the one and only Badrun Khan, who, if you can't tell from this poster here, is running for City Council in District 26. And we are so excited to have the pleasure to interview you in person. And a quick disclaimer, we are both vaccinated as well as everybody else in this room, so it's completely safe. And Badrun, it's so nice to meet you in person because I remember first interviewing you around a year ago at this time when you were running for Congress, and then I interviewed you again back in January or February when the race was just still in its infancy, and here we are now. It's May. We're about 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks away from the election day. How is like the campaign going, like compared to just like a few months ago? Like, do you feel like you're gaining momentum?
Well, first of all, Matt, thank you for inviting me back to the show. For the election, absolutely right now, because we're like a few weeks away for the election. So a lot of things are happening. Phone banking is happening. Posters are going up. Mailers are going up. We're doing interviews. We're doing debates. So it's a fast coming, like from January to now. Now we're counting every day, canvassing, people going out knocking doors. So a lot of things, a lot of momentums are coming up.
Yeah, you mentioned before we went live, you even have your first TV ad coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about the ad? What was it like filming a commercial? Is it because I imagine that's something like you had never really done before?
Actually, this is my last time I did it, but last time because of COVID, we weren't able to go around. So this time I had a crew. Actually, we went from every district, my district, every area, and he had a pretty big camera with him, and he followed me around. We met a lot of people. And when you do a commercial, when you actually take interviews with people, you have to get release forms signed. So my crew had release forms. They asked if they could be on camera. So it's very interesting. And what I've noticed is when I was in Queensbridge for a couple of hours, and I went to Woodside, then I came to Sunnyside, and the people I spoke to were very nice. They were like, okay, we want to ask you questions. What is this video for? And they actually asked me question live. So it was quite interesting. I actually had a fun. It was 7.5 hours, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. What type of like messages are you hearing from voters? Because I know like back in January, I have more experience with like the mayoral race, and that usually is something that people are tuning into more than even more local races at like the city council and like the borough president level. Like, are voters like just now starting to really like tune in? And what are you kind of hearing? Like, what type of issues are voters like most concerned with now that we're starting to come over like the hill, or like, yeah, let's say that we're starting to like come over the hill of the pandemic, and it feels like there's a lot like a spirit of optimism in the air. People are getting vaccinated, people are going out again, restaurants are finally about to be open like through the night, which is going to be great.
I know.
Like, so what are you hearing from voters that you speak to like every day?
Well, what I've noticed, a lot of people are asking about jobs. What will be in 6 months from today? Because people are still closed. Not everybody's not working. That's a big question that people are struggling with. The other thing is that there's still a lot of food insecurity because I do a lot of food drives. People are asking, how is that we're the most rich country in the world and we have people online, like 500 to 1,000 people for food. So because as you know, it's Ramadan. I actually did a food drive a couple of weeks ago, and we do it every night. And that's the biggest concern people are having. Food, it's also small businesses are being affected. And, they always say that we're trying to give funding to new businesses. That's one of my biggest platform. I think we need to open people back up who actually shut down. And we need to give them funds so they could come back and open these businesses, because right now they cannot open, they can't pay rent, they don't have key money to start. And I think if we push them and if we tell them and if we give them out, I think that would be successful for this community. That's one thing. The second thing I've noticed, I spend a lot of time talking to parents, and as you may know, a lot of kids are actually struggling in school.
Yeah, with the
online, people don't understand, and we even have bilingual parents who don't understand how to use it themselves. So they're also saying coming back September is my my child be going to go behind, or how are they going to make these things up? And I think they need to do more programs. I have an issue because I think Board of Education always get cuts, and we need more after school programs, more better teachers. We need, if you have 30 kids in one class, I think one teacher is enough. So a lot of these questions I've asked, some people ask, so what are you going to do for me as a community? Because as you see how the fundings are allocated between communities, some community gets a lot of funds and some community don't get funds.
Yeah.
You could see in schools, you could see how the area is cleaned, or little small things. NYCHA is a very big project in my community. So NYCHA is something that I'm actually looking to work with, and I want to see how we could get more funding for people who live in NYCHA.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the funds, and it's actually interesting you say that, because I heard a really crazy stat yesterday. It's almost hard to believe, of like the $45 million that the city appropriated to like various like social initiatives, like community-led initiatives, yes, from like the grassroots, but the money was given as a grant by the city. $45 million. Only 1% of it went to the Asian community, for example, even though Asians are 20% of the population of New York City. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, so how do you think, like, if you're in city council, like, what do you do to try to like solve like so many of these inequities that we see? Because it's not just that, it's also with the COVID recovery. Like, and I remember we had this conversation probably back in January, like just talking about how like the communities that are getting hit hard, that are getting and were hit hardest by COVID, are the communities that are getting like least vaccinated. So we keep seeing all these disparities in like
fund allocations.
Yeah. So like, how do we begin to change that? Because it's like it seems like it's an issue with like, it's an issue larger than just like one person or like one politician. It seems like just like
overall, I think.
Yeah, the whole system is just not working for so many people.
Absolutely. So let's say the Asian community. So let me give you an example with the small business grants, right? Most of them didn't get it. And I'll tell you why. First of all, they couldn't fill out the application. They couldn't even understand the application. And then they didn't give enough paperwork. And that's where the problem happens. They don't go back for it. It's like, the borough president, the city council, they have grants. And if you see how the grants work, if you go see the application, most people don't even know how to fill them out.
Yeah.
And they get stuck at that point. Well, I don't know how to answer this. So how do I do it? And that's why I think certain people cannot get. So I remember I applied for several people. They have after school dance programs and they could get small grants. But by the time they went to the 5th or 6th page, they're like, I don't know how to answer this. And that's a big problem, just not in the Asian community. I think other communities was also coming up. They're trying to understand how to get to these grants. And people don't know how to get to these grants. Mm-hmm. And some people who has been getting them for several years, they're kind of automatic. They know when it comes out and they apply and they get it. They have all the paper, all the background. Even with COVID, the PPPs, most small businesses didn't get them. And they didn't get them because you have let's say a corner grocery, maybe a husband and wife is running them. They don't have enough paperwork. They don't have everything. But you know what? It's a grocery store that people know about, but they didn't get it because they couldn't fill out the application, or they didn't have enough paperwork, and then the lines, the phone call the bank. So it's just, I don't think it's my district only. If you spread to other districts, I think every community has that problem.
Yeah.
Especially the Asian community, the Muslim community. Everyone also has that issues with schooling, with funding, not being allocating to every part of the community they need to.
Yeah, it definitely seems like just education, like just educating people about like what their options are, like, because I hear like one of my friends I was talking to yesterday, his name is Tyler. He was saying like he wants to create like a school that helps like train people like just to do like learn how to like do their taxes and stuff like that.
Like trade school.
Yeah. Like, so I think that's like what, like if the city can somehow do that like on a broader level. One thing I wanted to ask you about, like, because I hear about this all the time from people, and it's interesting, like, because if you're online, I'm talking about the issue of like crime and policing. If you're online, I feel like you hear a very different message from what you actually are hearing on the ground. Because I say, like, if you go on Twitter and maybe like go into like see what people like that are progressives and stuff like that are
Mhm.
saying. It's a lot of like very like we need to defund and like cut the police budget and like no more cops, and like obviously there's a very serious issue with like civil rights abuses and policing. Like we saw it with like even just like the NYPD at like protests last year. I think like a lot of people felt like what they were kind of like maybe out of control. Like so,
course.
but so like there's real issues with the police department that have to be solved. But in your eyes, like from what I hear from people on the ground, they're like really worried about like the crime issue. And I know I heard one mayoral candidate, he said that it's up like over 100% just year over year. So like the numbers don't lie. Like there's a real issue. What do you think the solution is? And if you're in city council, like what would you advocate for in terms of like the police department?
Well, first of all, we need to demilitarize. That's something has to be done. We don't need all that. That's something to do. And when everybody talks about defunding, you have to understand there are some over costs that we could allocate certain of that fund to the juvenile system. I think we need to put more programs in there because right now that's not working, because you could see when people do come out after serving their time, it's hard for them to get a job. It's hard for them. There's no practical programs for them. So let's go back to the police department. I think, first of all, they need to train police officers better. If you know, it's 5 to 6 months training. So that doesn't work for me. Plus, also, I think with the mental health cases that's increasing, we need to have these. When NYPD does some go out there, they need to have some experience dealing with mental health patients, and I don't think they have that. We either need to get more social work in the New York Health Department, or separately, like train them with them, because I think the training is better. We still need police officers. That's what I also think. But when you talk about defunding, we want to defund them at a certain point, that there's certain increases in maybe funding where we could take that money and actually help the community with it, instead of not taking all the money, defunding them, not police. We still need police, but we need to make sure they're trained more, and they actually train every type of people. They need to believe that we all are human beings. You cannot judge by color. You cannot judge by race. You need to judge them by who they are, because that's what I want to go to the police and I want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And that's what we're not feeling right now. It's because what's the aggression that's happening? And we need to make sure their powers are down a little bit. They need to make sure they follow the rule, which is not happening right now. And if they follow the rule, then me and you can go up to them. Okay, so I'm comfortable going to them, instead of not being comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's it. We need to have more training done to them. We need to more. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Japan has a 2-year training. I think that's the country. And there are other areas, other countries in the world that have the best police, but they don't have guns. That's also an issue that we have to talk about. So it's just not. And then I don't believe there should be guns in high school anymore. That should be gone. And those are the things that I have to see, that if we demilitarize them, if we allocate certain funds within our the system and the juvenile system, even if you go if you're in jail, we need to give them programs to come out and start a new life. Don't go back to the crime. Don't go back to selling drugs. Don't go back to what you did before. But that's not happening. Let's put funding into that.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because I didn't get the chance to ask you last time I interviewed you. I wanted to know, like, I want to talk about the mayoral race a little bit. And I want to know, like, well, it's a 2-part question. Like, the first part is, what is Badrun Khan looking for from the next mayor of New York City, just as a constituent? Mm-hmm. And then more broadly, what do you think, like, your community here in District 26. I was going to say 26, but I wanted to make sure I was right. District 26. And then, like, more broadly, just like the whole city. What do you think the city needs from the next mayor?
Well, I think the city is looking for someone who's confident, who could bring back jobs back to the city, bring the city back alive, because we are a small business city. And that's what I think they're looking for. Someone who's not connected to everybody, not that much of an establishment, someone fresh, someone new, who could actually work with the people. I think that's what we're looking for.
Mhm.
And I think also safety is a big issue. Education is a big issue. And we have to have someone that who's confident that he could bring back the city where it was. See, New York City just itself is looking for someone to bring back the livelihood of New York City. Like if you go to Rockefeller, my brother was saying the other day, like it's dead in Rockefeller Center. I mean, that's never happening. Times Square, you walk at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and it's people there. We want to get back to that city that we could walk at midnight and we're still comfortable there.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people are looking for, someone they could be comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And who could actually lead the city back to what it was. We have a big tourist area. We need to bring that back because, you know, when tourists comes to New York City, that's actually more funds that's going back into the city. More people are spending, people are creating more jobs. And that's what I think people are looking for. Someone who could also, as you know, I'm a big basic income fan. I wish that could come to New York City because I think they need that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the basic income, because it's on your flyer right there. It's listed. You would advocate for universal basic income. Like there's a few different, just in the mayoral race. There's actually like I think 4 different candidates that are proposing some type of like basic income plan. There's the Andrew Yang plan, which many people are familiar with.
Yes.
He wants to do $2,000 a month to 500,000 of the most in need New Yorkers. There's Eric Adams. He wants to do like a tax credit plan, which is sort of like cash relief, but maybe not. And then Maya Wiley, she wants to do 100,000 caregivers. And then I think it's 5,000 a year. And then
I think it is 5,000.
The last one is Diane Morales. She wants to do a universal basic income, though she hasn't actually come out with a plan yet. So I don't know what the details are. Like, I would be happy with all 4 of those plans because in my opinion, it's people, they just need, like, the number one need for people who are struggling or in poverty. It's not like a weekly like check-in with like some case manager who like makes sure they're like spending their money properly and like going through all these forms to try to like get eligibility and like worrying about whether they're going to be eligible or like whether they're not going to be eligible. Like there's just so much problems with the current system, and like the current system, it's great. Like it's still, even with all those problems, it keeps like a lot of people afloat, but we need to be doing even more. And that's why I think this basic income policy, if it came to New York, would be so powerful. If you were in city council, how would you work with, let's say, one of those 4 people is the next mayor? Like, how would you work with them to try to make sure that that passes, since it's also a policy that you're championing in your own campaign?
Oh, absolutely. If you say anyone who gives that basic income is something that I have like for almost 2 years. I'm always for those programs. The reason why, and I would work with the mayor, whoever comes in, just because I think it will benefit the community in every different community, especially as I said before, the battered woman, single father or single mother, doesn't matter who it is. It will benefit them in such ways, because there are some people who are struggling. There are some people who actually leave their kids to go to work because they don't have enough funds. And I would need, if I'm elected and if I was there, there's something I would actually work with other city council members, like, let's get this through, because it will benefit not just the community who has, but the community who's struggling. Like if you go to certain areas in New York City, you could see a lot of people struggling. Even if they have certain benefits, as you said, just to get food stamp, the paperwork is insane. And if you make too much money, if you do this too much, it gets cut. It's very paper oriented right now. And that's very hard. But with COVID right now, it's been easier. It's more relaxed, even with any kind of health insurance, any kind of food. We have the WIC program. These programs are all, like, the pushing of papers is so much. So by the time if you go to the Medicaid office or just to get food stamp, you're waiting in line for hours. And if you fill out the wrong forms, you're going back there. But people don't understand. Sometimes, like maybe someone has to take someone, they don't understand how to fill out the paperwork. So this will be something, it'll be less challenging for them, and try to get as much as help for them. I'm pretty favored. That's why I remember 2 years ago, Andrew Yang said it. That was something that was the first thing right here. My father sat in here. He's like, he's the future president. That's what I remember, his speech when he gave that universal basic income speech.
Yeah.
And I think like other people are following it right now, because it's something with automation of jobs that's something it's going to be needing quite soon.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We are here in the back. We have Nell, who's managing the stream for us, for all of you that are watching. And I want to ask you, Nell, do we have any audience questions that have come in?
There actually is one question. Patrick Dunn asked a question. I'm just looking for it right now. Asking about an incumbent. Is there an incumbent that you're running against?
No, so their incumbent was there's no incumbent this time.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this also before the interview, was the fact that there's 15 people running for this seat, which is a really high. I mean, it's just like the mayor's race, there's 15 or like whatever people. The presidential primary last year, there was like 15 people running. It's like, wow, a lot of people want to get involved in politics, which is a great thing, but
actually pretty much every seat, it has at least about 8 people running for every seat.
Wow,
it's the first time, and
I guess it's
almost 400 people are running, I think, this year.
I think that's a good thing, because it shows that the pandemic has made people realize like that we need change, because like, in my opinion, the system really wasn't working that well before COVID, and
Absolutely.
COVID, I think, tore off any type of like band-aid or like idea that it was somehow like doing enough, like just the system doing enough, because it just hasn't been. But with that many people running, 15, how do you make your campaign stand out, and like try not to like kind of fall like just kind of get like
ahead of
blend in just you're blending in with the crowd.
You know what, let me tell you, with the 15 candidates, but I have noticed that I speak to other people in other districts who also have 8 people running, 9 people running. There's a lot of people running in every district. Mine doesn't have an incumbent. So what I have, just for my sake, what I'm doing is, so I'm pretty much doing a lot of phone banking. I'm actually phone banking myself. I have a lot of volunteers who's actually calling, like my family, my friends, who's actually calling. I think phone banking is really good. And the best part is, because I did another election before, so my name is not that. Some people already know my name. Oh, wait a minute, I saw your name before. And then I have put my posters up. So I'm connecting to every community. I'm knocking on doors. But knocking on doors is becoming difficult, because still there is COVID out there, and people get a little nervous when I try to go into people's door. They don't want to open the door. If they do open the door, they just want like some sort of barricade and not trying to actually speak to them. So me as a candidate, I'm doing what maybe most of them are doing, but I'm calling people. I'm putting ads up, Facebook ads, newspaper ads. I'm trying to get my name out there. But also, is ranked voting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I don't think people understand. Some people do and some people don't. So someone asked me the other day, it's like, I spoke to someone, because I think one of my staff called them, and they said, but I already know you. But then someone else called, they said for me to give number 2. So I don't understand that. So now we actually have to explain that if you vote for me, you could vote for other people. Then they asked me, who do you want me to vote for? So that's also an interesting thing. But with that ranked voting, what's happening is a very nice, it's not hostile anymore. People are like, all the candidates are very nice to each other, respecting each other. And I said, look, I spoke to several of them, like, if I don't win, you're my councilman. If I win out. So it's just something we had to go to. So that's something positive with ranked voting. But my biggest concern is most of the people don't understand how to do the ranked voting.
Yeah, I've heard that. And I remember actually back in November or December, there was some people like trying to like cancel the ranked choice voting, which I think would have been a bad idea, since the voters showed like this is what the voters wanted. But it's again, it's the city just like failing to do like the basics, like just explain to people how the new voting system works, like get that information out in multiple different languages, like, and distribute it to the communities. Like, I mean, just even like just TV ads, like explaining it. I've seen a few things in like Manhattan on like like billboards outside of like a train station. But that's
we
about
had
it.
a community board. They had a big, but the community board is people who are in the community.
Yeah.
Some people don't run it. Like basically some people who are like maybe just became American citizens for the first time and they're voting right now and they don't understand the voting system. So that's hard. That's something we need to explain more. And I think I'm trying to get into that. I'm actually pro ranked voting. Some people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ranked voting, what happened is other people with other background could actually run and understand what it is happening. Maybe like I have a base votes, but it's basically who you know in this election, how you can get your base votes to come out, like your area, your district, your family background, whoever you can get.
Mm-hmm. How many people will end up running? I mean, sorry, not running. How many people will end up voting, like in the district?
That's a hard one. Because
can't know for sure.
Yeah, we can't know for sure because I think there's 2 special elections that the ranked voting happened, and actually that was it's hard to analyze. I think.
Is there like a number from the previous one at all?
Well, he's been in for a while. So so that's a hard job, But also a lot of says it's been like last time he did it, he's been pretty popular in the neighborhood. So that's why he's running for borough president right now, Jimmy Van Bender.
Oh wow, yeah.
So also you have to understand with this election, you have the mayoral election, you have the borough president election, you have the city council election, you have the controllers election. Be honest,
it's overwhelming.
People even know who the controllers are, who's running.
Yeah.
I know it because I'm politically active. My family knows it because everybody pretty much knows who they are. And a lot of people will go out because of the mayor election. I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm. It looks like we have another audience question. I'm getting the signal from Nell.
Yeah. So Von Dormal asks, how does running against AOC, how did running against AOC help you with your current campaign?
Oh, okay. So with that election, one thing I had, I was in the community. I'm knowing who I am, and people know my policies. That I'm a strong person with policy. Because when I run against Ocasio-Cortez, everything was based on policies, and even Ocasio actually last time we went, she said, Badrun, I'm actually thank you that you're running on based on your policies. So that's what it was. Not something that I disliked her or I'm like pretty much against her. I was someone from the Republican side. Let me run against her. Nothing like that. It was basically based on policies. So I did that based on my policy. So when I meet people, that's something where they understand that I was a genuine candidate. It was not something of because I just wanted to run against her. And that's positive. And the other thing was positive. People know my name. That was amazing. I got so much coverage because of the name. And I will give it to you that the respect I got from people. And even with Ocasio-Cortez, when we were on a debate, we're very courteous of each other. She was very respectful.
Yeah, I remember. She said something like she was getting like attacked by like everybody except you, and she like retorted back, was like, I just want to say thank you, Badrun, for being the only one here who actually has like policies on their website.
I mean, but that's the point of it. When you run an election, it's based on policies. It's not because I dislike you as a person. And I actually made that very open. And actually, when she even called my name, I was someone going against her, but she gave me that respect. The other woman who was running did not. Actually,
yeah. I think she's the other one's running for comptroller now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. A lot of people running for a lot of different offices. Nell, do we have any more audience questions?
There is one more question, and I'm sorry that I keep forgetting to highlight the question on the screen, but I will highlight this one. This question comes from Inferno 234. How do you factor RCV in your campaign strategy?
Oh, that's a big one. That's what I did because I'm contacting my base votes. That's very important for me because that's what people do. Because let's say I'm South Asian, I'm a Muslim candidate, I'm also brown, and that's something very important because my people, or let's say my family, friends would say, who's connecting from Jamaica to here, who lives in Jamaica, listen, my friend is running, my cousin is running, and they're actually, so it's like a comparing to, even from Long Island, they're calling me, can you go out to vote? Do you live in Woodside? So it's something that is kind of forced, that is working everywhere. And because I know, like I said the other day, I know kind of like 4 languages. So I'm connecting to people who I can. And that will be something that I know, inshallah, that I will get those votes. Because if I go in to the Bangladesh community or the South Asian community, people were saying, oh, we know her. So let's see, maybe she can make a difference. Because before, what they were saying, well, we'll never win, because we don't have the votes. With this ranked voting, maybe another candidate will say, you know what, let me give Badrun number 2. So that's something we're factoring in. That's why we're working with everybody to see how can we work. And if I'm elected, I will be the first female Muslim in city council.
Wow.
That's never happened.
Wow.
So that's something we want to do. But it's not about, that's what I say. I don't try to, I want to say I'm just a regular community person. I don't want to distinguish myself from everybody. I want people to know who I am. I work with everybody. I've been living here almost 25 years. I pretty much eat in the district. We live in the district. We had our iftar today when we break Ramadan. We actually went to Steinway to pick up some food. We're from this community, and we want this community to flourish.
I love it. Anything else now?
I don't see any other questions, but I do want to recognize Donna Lees, who created that poster that's right behind you. Beautiful poster. Donna.
Yes, I actually, just to tell you guys, I have great people, great friends. Matt's been great. Nello's there. Mark's been here. They've been absolutely great. They come from all over New York City, even outside of New York State, to come and visit me or talk to me. That's something and you know what? That's something I have to say. Andrew Yang created something. I have to say that. He actually pulled people from every state, and everybody's connecting to everybody. In any political matter, no matter if you support him, don't support him, because you can't support everything one candidate does. And that's something I want to say to Andrew Yang, which he did, is like, I'm a Yang gang from before, but I met all these people through that election. And that's something I think we need to show up. And I do want to say something, that people need to come out and vote.
Absolutely.
Especially the younger people who's on Twitter, who's on Instagram. Voting is so important. And I think if people come out to vote, I think the mayor election would be different, the city council election. And one thing about city council that I've noticed this year, everybody who's running is usually people who are community activists. They're people who wants better for the community. And that's what we're looking for. Most people are not establishment. Most people don't have political background. There are people who will help people. Like I spent last year hours giving out food, even though there was no vaccine. Actually, my husband has heart issues, but I told him, you are out, you could stay home and I would go out. And my other daughter has allergies, so she can't even take the vaccine until later, she's okay to take it. But I was still out giving out food to people during the COVID time. So a lot of people actually went out to help people. And those are the people who are actually running this year in every community, not only in District 26, in District 25. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
We do have a question from Nell Nieves. This question says, besides donations, how else can we help?
Oh, yeah. Phone banking is so important. That is something that every campaign needs help. My campaign needs phone help. If you make 10 phone calls a day, that would be great. Or and during the election day, which is earlier election, if you guys live in the district or if you live in Queens, we need volunteers to work on to canvas. Like I go out myself sometimes when I can't find people because people of COVID don't want to do it. That's how I do it.
Mm-hmm. And what is like a web? Like I know your website. It's Badrun Khan, BADRUNKHAN.com.
Yes.
And people can go on there, volunteer, donate, get in contact with you and your team. Because I know there's a lot of people in New York City that are very passionate, ready to do work for candidates. Like the mayor's race, like does suck up a lot of the attention, but definitely like no matter who the next mayor is, personally, I'm a fan of Andrew. But that's pretty clear for most who know me. Like whoever's the mayor, they're gonna need people in the city council ready to work with them to get like their policies and pass change. So it's got to make things happen. Got to get people in there who are gonna fight for things like basic income. Basic income.
That's absolutely sure. I think a lot of people who are running for city council do agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely gone. The pandemic flipped the script on cash relief.
Yeah, we need cash relief even now.
Yeah, still.
It's a tough time for everybody.
Yeah. Is that it? No? Anything else that you have for us?
Yeah, nothing. I don't see any other questions. That's all.
All right.
That's
Well,
all.
this was really fun, I think. It's a good spot to probably call it an interview. Badrun.
It was great in my home.
Yeah, no, it's really because this is the first time I've ever done something like this, like a in-person interview with a candidate. I've never done that before. So
you have an audience too.
In the city that never sleeps.
In the city that never sleeps.
And you have a
from beautiful Sunnyside, Queens, who will hopefully soon be represented by Badrun Khan in City Council. Badrun, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, it was.
Third time's the charm.
I know.
Hopefully, we'll have you on again sometime after you win in June.
Yes, definitely. I'll be one calling you, man. I won. Let's get on a show tonight.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.